Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 12 recap of the Seattle Seahawks versus the Arizona Cardinals yesterday on Sunday. Now, without a further ado, let's get started. Now, let's kick it off with the injury report of the Seattle Seahawks, starting with right guard Anthony Bradford, who exited the game with an ankle injury and did not return. And then we move on after that to cornerback Tariq Woolen with a ankle, I think, maybe a ankle foot injury, something like that. After Kobe Bryant, one of his teammates, landed on him after leaping over a receiver he was covering. I think it was Woolen who was covering him. And in the end, he left the game for a little bit, came back, no issues, but most likely will be on the injury report as questionable for the next game. You never know. Depends on how bad the injury is. And honestly, losing Anthony Bradford, not that big of a deal. But to be honest, losing an offensive lineman, even though it's not really that big of a deal, it still is. Due to the fact that when it comes to the offensive line, I've said it before and I'll say it again, most important part of the offense. And losing one not in the caliber of Anthony Bradford. Obviously, losing a offensive lineman is bad, but I think that internal linemen, I think we're good. It's the external linemen that we have to worry about if Charles Cross or Abraham Lucas goes down. Then we go to Tariq Woolen. Obviously, we got Devin Witherspoon. We got a few more corners, although not that many. But in the end, I think Tariq Woolen will be okay and will most likely play next week's game. Now let's move on to the offense of the Seattle Seahawks. And starting out with the passing game, we got Geno Smith throwing 31 passes for 22 completions, 254 yards, 1 touchdown to 1 interception, and was sacked 5 times for a loss of 34 yards and a passer rating of 92.7. This is a very decent game for the quarterback. Honestly, he could have done a little bit better. That pick, not really to my liking. But in the end, he did a decent job and led the Seattle Seahawks on offense to be able to score 16 points. Meanwhile, the defense obviously did their job in the passing game. We were okay, but we could have done a lot better. Now, in the run game, we had a relatively okay game as well. 41 yards, 16 carries, no touchdowns for Kenneth Walker, and 6 carries and 22 yards for Zach Charbonnet, no touchdowns as well. Honestly, 65 yards, 25 carries in total. That's adding the rushing yards and carries that Geno Smith had. But in the end, I think that we did an okay job, obviously. And obviously the best runner was indeed Kenneth Walker, but it was still underwhelming in my opinion. He should have done a lot better, and honestly will most likely do a lot better in the games to come. Now on to the receiving game, and we got a very good game for DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Njigba getting 7 targets, 6 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. DK getting 5 targets, 4 receptions, and 59 yards, and no touchdowns. But honestly, Kenneth Walker in the pass game, 4 receptions out of 6 targets, 52 yards, no touchdowns. Tyler Lockett did not have a good game. 2 receptions for 20 yards, 3 targets. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 19 yards for Pharaoh Brown. The same goes for AJ Barner, although he did have 4 targets and 3 receptions. And then we get on to Jake Bobo with 1 reception, 8 yards, no touchdowns. Now, when it comes down to it, we did an okay job. We didn't have Noah Fant, and that's a very big loss. But in the end, I still think we did an okay job in the passing game. But in the receiving game, it was all Metcalf, Walker, and Njigba all day long. Now, moving on to the defense, we got Ernest Jones IV being the top tackler with 10 tackles, 5 solo tackles, and that was it. Trice McKnight, 9 tackles, 5 solo, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Kobe Bryant, 6 tackles, 6 solo tackles, and that was it. Leonard Williams, 6 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. Then we move on to Devin Witherspoon with 5 tackles and 5 tackles for loss, 4 tackles and 4 tackles for loss for Tariq Woolen, 3 tackles and 1 solo tackle, 0.5 sacks for the game for Jaron Reed. Julian Love, 2 tackles, 2 solo tackles, 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss for Boye Mafe. 2 tackles for Rayshawn Jenkins along with Byron Murphy. Drake Thomas, 1 tackle, 1 tackle for loss. Jonathan Hankins along with Roy Robertson Harris, Draymond Jones, all getting 1 tackle along with Derek Hall. Then we get Josh Joby, who did not really perform as well, but did get 1 pass defended. In the end, we did a very good job on defense, keeping the Cardinals to only 6 points, and honestly, I'm very much impressed. We even got a 69-yard pick 6 by Kobe Bryant, and that was a very, very good to give the Seahawks a 2-point score at the time. I would think it was 13-3 at that time. So realistically, the Seahawks did very good on defense, something that I never expected. Now on to the offense of the Cardinals, starting with the passing game. We got Kyler Murray throwing 37 passes for 24 completions, 285 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception, getting sacked 5 times for a loss of 36 yards and a passer rating of 77. Now when it comes to Kyler Murray, he did an okay job, but that pick was very crucial as it gave the Seahawks a 2-point lead. And honestly, that was just the downfall of the Arizona Cardinals, as this game was just not that good for the Arizona Cardinals offense, and especially not for their run game. Now moving on to the run game, where we had Trey Benson, 4 carries, 18 yards, no touchdowns. 14 yards, 1 carry, no touchdowns for Amari DeMarcado. And obviously James Conner with 7 carries and 8 yards, 0 touchdowns. Not that good of a game for James Conner. Honestly, this game could have been better for the Arizona Cardinals in the run game. The Seahawks managed to stop it on every single occasion, mostly due to the fact that the Seattle Seahawks defense was just living today. They were alive. And besides the point, there are some times where obviously James Conner did some big plays that were like, oh my, this guy is showing why he's a good running back. But in the end, the Cardinals' run game didn't do as good as they hoped it would. Now on to the receiving game. We got Trey McBride with 12 receptions from 15 targets, 133 yards, no touchdowns. Then wide receiver Michael Wilson, 2 receptions, 4 targets, and 54 yards. 3 receptions and 47 yards, and 6 targets for Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie. James Conner, 5 receptions, 41 yards out of the 5 targets. Then Greg Dortch with 5 yards and 1 reception and 2 targets, and the same thing goes for Elijah Higgins. Honestly, this team had 4 top receivers. One was a running back, the other was a tight end, and the other 2 were receivers, that being Trey McBride, James Conner, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, this was a pretty good game for Trey McBride, but obviously it was not enough, and the Cardinals just couldn't get into rhythm, at least after that interception, only scoring another field goal after the pick 6 by the Seattle Seahawks. In the end, they weren't on point yesterday against the Seattle Seahawks, so I'm thinking that this is going to be a tough road for the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. Now moving on to the defense, we got Dadrian Taylor Demerson as the top tackler of the Arizona Cardinals with 9 tackles and 6 solo tackles and 1 tackle for loss, 8 tackles, 4 solo tackles, and 1 tackle for loss for Kaiser White. Buda Baker getting 7 tackles, 4 solo tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Sean Murphy-Bunting getting 6 tackles for 4 solo tackles. Then Mac Wilson with 4 tackles and 1 solo tackle. Zaven Collins getting 3 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. And the same thing goes for Jesse Luketa. Garrett Williams getting 3 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. And if I'm not mistaken, he was also the guy who got the interception on, obviously, Geno Smith. Then Starling Thomas, the fifth, getting 3 tackles, 2 solo tackles. Dante Steele's 2 tackles, 2 solo tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Then moving on to Victor Dimujike, I think that's how you say it, with 2 tackles and 2 solo tackles and a tackle for loss. Then getting on to Baron Browning with 2 tackles and 2 solo tackles, and the same thing for Max Melton. LJ Collier getting 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, and 1 tackle for loss along with a sack. Then we get Roy Lopez with 1 tackle and 1 solo tackle, along with Kazir Tunga, Owen Pope. I don't know if that's how you say it, but I think that's the son of a former NFL player who has his own show on Disney. But then we get Chris Barnes with 1 tackle and Naquan Jones, the same thing. Now, this just was a horrific game for the defense of the Arizona Cardinals, allowing 16 points, and to be honest, being down most of the game. That was horrific, and the Cardinals, although I think they were expected to win, I expected the Seahawks to win, but in general, I think others thought that the Cardinals were going to win. In the end, I think the Cardinals defense is just not as good as they should have been. And although I even said the Seahawks were going to win, I thought the Cardinals were going to put up a better fight than that. Now, in conclusion, this game was just honestly, an offensive and defensive onslaught by the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, the Seahawks didn't score so many points, but still, they had the lead for a long time in this game. And honestly, the defense keeping the Cardinals to only 2 field goals, that is incredible. And to be honest, I think the Seattle Seahawks might end up winning this division outright if this is the team that we see every Sunday from this point forward. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Tweet me any video ideas. Also, tell me down in the comments below, who do you think did a better job? The Arizona Cardinals or the Seattle Seahawks? Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.